Hi, this is Charles Kelly. Good news this week is that Lloyds Bank plans to buy 50,000 homes to rent in its UK property expansion. They're going to build a property empire, a buy-to-let mammoth empire. And this is the Lloyds Banking Group, which plans to become the UK's biggest domestic property landlord as it aims to buy in the next 10 years 50,000 homes. This is according to reports that was first reported in the Financial Times. Now, they are Britain's biggest lender and also a banking giant. It's been around for years, Lloyds, then Lloyds TSB. And they would just buy properties and then charge tenants as a private buy-to-let landlord and under its recently launched Citra Living brand, that's CITRA. Now, the Financial Times said the bank was aiming to buy this year 400 properties and 10,000 homes by the end of 2025. So it's a massive move towards domestic property by this retail banking giant. Now, Lloyds actually owns the Halifax, which was a building society before and was the biggest lender at that time. Bank of Scotland as well, which was also a lender and a bank. And the insurance company giant Scottish Widows. And they actually now provide 1 in 4 of all mortgages in the UK. You may have heard me talking about the Halifax survey, that properties are rising or falling according to the Halifax survey. They're so big that their surveys matter based on just their lending data. So it's a massive company. But normally banks don't go directly into this sort of market. Having said that, HSBC also have a portfolio of properties through a different company. But anyway, Citra Living is starting small. Well, they call it small, buying 400 properties. To me, that's quite big. But to them, it's small. And they're testing the rental market and will focus on buying and renting new build housing properties. And their first buy-to-let project is 45 new apartments in a place called Fletton Quays in Peterborough, which I know very well. And there's a lot of development going on there. So they're obviously planning to move into new build, because I guess the new build would have low maintenance costs for the first 10 years or so, where they don't seem to be going into the buy and refurbish, the doer-uppers, as they say. So there's still room for everybody else. But I personally find new build is okay, but they tend to be a little bit overpriced. But I imagine if they're buying in bulk, they can get special deals. I find that it takes time for a new build property to kind of catch up to the stage where you would get your money back if you sold it, whereas you don't tend to get deals on them. I think they tend to be a bit priced, just priced as what the builders would like them to be priced at. I remember in one area where a new build was built many years ago, and they were coming in at £250,000 for a small flat, whereas the average in the area was probably around £150,000. But eventually the average kind of went up. But someone who bought one of those new properties said it took many years before it became worth what he paid for it. And in fact, he was complaining to me the other day. He said, well, I've had it 10 years. It's gone up by X amount. I said, well, that's okay. He said, yeah, but not great. And it was true. It wasn't great, but he didn't have much maintenance to deal with. The other thing with buying new builds and properties in these blocks is that usually the landlord is covering all the service charges, which can go up over time. And these service charges can be quite high. In fact, the government has moved in on these building companies to make them have more favourable leases and service charges, because quite frankly some of the leases they were offering and the ground rents and the service charges were just a complete rip-off. Some of them don't even maintain the blocks. So it's you've got to be careful when you're buying new builds, and I imagine they would have done their homework. We'll have all the property experts and surveyors on board in-house in the company. So as I said, their target, if they hit their target of 10,000 properties, that will make them, Citra, bigger than the current leader, Granger, which is the current largest private residential landlord, which owns 9,100 properties and has a market capitalisation of 2 billion. Now, based on current prices and rental estimates, this move into property would create a portfolio worth £4 billion and generate pre-tax profits of around 300 million for the company. So it's a bold move into property. As many people are saying, well, is property reached a peak? They're just going in with all guns blazing and jumping in feet first. But they're only going in for 400 this year. So we'll be interested to see how this works out and whether other big retail banking giants will move into property. Now, we know, in fact, a retail giant, not a banking retail giant, but John Lewis, the big retailer, which has closed down a lot of its branches all over the country following the lockdown and the move into online buying, has plans to convert unused retail shopping space into flats and apartments. And it's moving away from dependency on retail alone into areas such as banking, and they're going to launch savings accounts through their Waitrose brand and John Lewis brand. And of course, John Lewis has got some of the prime spots in the high street, including Oxford Street, his flagship property. And maybe they're going to I think a lot of the properties along Oxford Street, which is right in the heart of the West End, will become shops with flats above. And very interesting. These companies, of course, were department stores before, with a department in every area of the store and with selling a lot of its own brand stuff. Now they've moved more into renting retail space to companies, clothing companies, brands and that sort of thing. So they rent the space from them. So when you go into these shops, it's all different brands here and there, rather than sort of one big John Lewis umbrella brand. They used to sell brands before, but they would have their own brand of clothing. I've got stuff from John Lewis, always very good, high quality. Anyway, that's interesting. They're moving also into property. Another story which may be a bit alarming to people who buy cryptocurrency and think that, we're told that blockchain will be the new technology. It's totally secure, cannot be hacked. This blockchain technology that everybody keeps going on about. Well, someone has hacked it. And hackers have stolen $100 million of cryptocurrency in what is called liquid wallets, as they were compromised in Japan by a company looking after crypto. It's almost like a crypto bank, as it were. 100 million stolen. So just be careful with that. And it'd be interesting to see how the market will react to that, because we've always thought that it's safe and blockchain is unhackable, as they say. In fact, I've got a book on it somewhere, Blockchain Revolution. I've read about 5 pages. It's so boring I couldn't finish it. But anyway, there you go. This week I also reported that average house prices are falling in the rush to beat the stamp duty. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link up to that. You can watch that episode, or it's on all the social media channels as well as on my blog. But there's another story that's come out. There's properties up north are booming, and that's sort of bringing the average up a bit. So some areas are declining, some areas are booming, but definitely in the north and the regions, particularly like the northeast, the government is pumping a lot of money into that in what they call the levelling up program, where the north has always been the poor relation compared to the south, and more investment appears to go into the south. I don't think that's always true, but the government want to invest a lot, particularly in the northeast, where there's high unemployment and a lot of social deprivation. And you can see this happening already. Prices are jumping up there. One time you could buy very, very cheap properties. Now they're not so cheap, but they're still cheap compared to the south. But a friend of mine invests up in Hartlepool, and he said it's not looking too bad. Whereas I went there 10 or 15 years ago, and I thought, God, I thought I was going to get mugged, But no disrespect to people in Hartlepool, but it was very run down. There were boarded up shops everywhere. Houses at that time were selling, this is going back 20 years, for like £15,000, in Hartlepool. And I thought, well, this place looks so desolate with a lot of unemployed people and no job prospects. But now it seems to be on the way up. And that whole northeast region is getting a lot of investment into green energy, wind power, and new battery and car manufacturing. So great, good luck to them, and good luck if you're investing up there. Personally, for me, it's a long way. It's 300 miles. It's a long way if things go wrong. So that's why I've kind of avoided it, really. But I'm sure for some people it's been a very good investment and gives quite a high rental yield and return for your money. But in the past, not so much capital growth over the years. And the property market is also changing. This is partly due to companies, and I've reported on this in previous episodes, telling their staff, look, you stay at home now. We don't want you back in the office, maybe ever. Certainly the big high tech giants and in Silicon Valley are telling people not to even think about coming back till next year. But some are more or less putting people on permanent stay-at-home working. And this is affecting the housing market as people maybe move out of the cities and look for a bigger property, sometimes as far away as Truro in Cornwall, which has been a property hotspot. Other property hotspots I reported on were along that south coast region. Winchester is now the most expensive place to buy a property based on average incomes. I think Truro was second or third. And these are a long way. I mean, Truro is a long trek by car into London. It's a long trek by train as well. It's many, many hours. So if your company then decides, well, they want you back in for a couple of days a week or all week, and you're living in Truro, well, then you are stuffed, as it were. You know, what do you do then? But anyway, it's affecting the markets, and people are there's a big demand for 4-bed houses, larger 3 beds, where people can perhaps have a spare bedroom as a home office. So that's an interesting move. And the same thing is happening in America as well. So whether this trend will last or not, I don't know. I think eventually companies will probably want people to come back and work in-house. I think working from home is very nice and comfortable. I mean, I've got family who work from home. They love it. You know, they can get on with things. They can have the washing machine running in the background. They can deal with builders and plumbers who are coming in rather than sort of having to worry about waiting at home for the gas man to come in. All these things, and people can take care of their children as well, working from home, as it were. So that's an interesting trend. The other thing I reported on this week was there's a big staffing crisis. There's a big job shortage in the UK. If you want to come and work in the UK, there's 1 million job vacancies, and I think including hundreds of thousands of vacancies for healthcare workers and NHS staff. I think we've got 38,000 nurse vacancies in the UK. 38,000 nurse vacancies in the UK. So if you're a nurse in India or the Philippines, then this is the place to come and work. Although it takes me back to my days when I was recruiting nurses many years ago, and going on recruitment trips all over the place to get nurses to come and work in the UK. And it was a great business at that time. The government kind of messed it up, I guess I could say, by making the visas far more difficult than they used to be, and it just became impossible to get people in. Now they've made it a little bit easier, but there's still some hurdles to jump through. But if you really want it, then it's there for you. You can get it if you really want, as the song goes, right? Remember that song? So there you go. That's a staffing crisis in the UK, partly due to, I think, after the lockdown, a lot of people from Europe went home and decided, well, I'm not going to stay here during the lockdown, renting this flat or this room. I might as well go back to wherever and camp out until things settle down. Well, some of those people haven't come back. Some maybe can't get back because they now need working visas and work permits to come and work in the UK after Brexit. But there's still a lot of people unemployed in the UK. What are they doing? Why aren't they going for these jobs? There's over 1 million people unemployed and 1 million job vacancies. Well, hold on, and a lot of these job vacancies are in manual work, in the building trade, hospitality sectors are desperate for staff, So I think it's a question of looking at the benefit system and seeing if we can't get more people, back to work and in work. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Now, if you want to be more successful, then you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Millionaires and millionaires' habits have been studied and documented at academic level for well over 100 years in Harvard longitudinal studies and what makes people successful. And, best-selling books like The Science of Getting Rich, Think and Grow Rich were written almost a century ago. And I published my own book on success and money and how people make money, how people also lose money if they're not careful, in my book, Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness, which you can get on Amazon. So there's nothing new about this. We know what the millionaire and even billionaire habits are. We know what their traits are because success leaves traits. They leave tracks, And so you don't, all you have to do really, rather than try and reinvent your own new invention or new scheme, you just have to follow what they do, follow what successful and wealthy people do. Stand on the shoulders, and then you too could become financially free. It's not rocket science, as they say. So if you'd like to learn more about investing, if you'd like to learn more about managing your money, becoming a professional property investor, for instance, or learning more about how to invest in the stock market, or you'd just like to be financially free without working any harder than you are now, then check out my free on-demand training, my free video, and it will lead you through, where I think you should be going. And I'll even give you a special free gift at the end, which will help transform your life immediately, and offer you a free coaching call if you follow the link that I'm going to put below. Now, as it's a Friday, I thought I would end with a bit of humour, a little bit of a joke, right? So just to cheer us up for the weekend. And it's a story about a man who goes to his bank, and he's going through a tough time, and he needs a loan. And the bank manager says, well, look, you've been working for 35 years. Where's all the money gone? You've earned a lot of money in that time. Where's it all gone? What have you done with all this money? And he said, well, unfortunately, my peak earning years coincided with my peak spending years. So that's a common problem, right? Your peak earning years coincides with your peak spending years. So he said, look, I still need this loan, right? And the bank said, well, I'll give you a loan only under certain meteorological conditions. He said, what are those conditions? He said, when hell freezes over. Okay, that's it. So have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you again next week. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks for everyone who tuned in on my social media platforms. And do tick the like button, do share if you can. It spreads the word. It helps with the algorithms, whatever they are, and it helps to spread the content. So do like, share, whatever, subscribe, whatever. Please do, because it really helps me, and it does help it get out to more people organically through content and through sharing on social media. Thanks for your support, and bye for now.